North American markets moved back into the red to start the new week and the new month after gains last week that took the TSX to record highs several times. Let's go to Youngyu Ma, Chief Investment Strategist at PNC Asset Management Group, to talk about this. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Marilla. Great to be here.
Let's talk about AI to start. Do you see AI investing as getting a bit of a reset here?
I think we're seeing somewhat of a reset. I wouldn't call it a full-blown reset. I think right now what the market's doing is trying to sort out which investments seem sound and where there might be overinvestment, and which companies are really gaining traction in what looks to be a durable way versus which companies might have business plans that don't become as robust over the next few years. And I think that sorting is actually healthy for the markets, but it will eventually result in a reset. But I think we have more sorting to do here and probably more back and forth in the markets.
Do you think we've seen the end then of the one-day double-digit gains and losses in the sector?
It's hard to know if we've seen the end of that. Certainly, one thing that's very interesting about the sector is that so much of the benefits and the gains are out into the future, years to come, even decades to come. This could compound over time. So if there are developments or news, either good or bad, that can be impounded and priced very heavily in the short term. And so you can see big gains and you can also see big losses. So I don't think we should be lulled into a sense of complacency or even modest moves. Every once in a while, a big move is going to come by.
So when investors are looking forward, you mentioned they're sort of shaking out the details these days. What should they focus on if they want to maintain some traction in AI?
Yeah, it's an evolving landscape. One thing that's very distinctive and I think important about this technology versus other technologies that have been new in the past and prior decades is how quickly this is evolving, the AI technology, how quickly new models are coming out, how quickly new use cases are coming out. So, I think it really pays to be well diversified in the space. I do think it's an important space to have exposure to, but it's also an important space and so fast moving of a space. It's hard to stay abreast of all of the day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month developments unless you're really devoting a lot of effort to it. And being diversified within the space makes a lot of sense too. There are going to be many winners. That's good to know. Exactly who the winners are, which is those that ultimately fall behind. I think if we take a lesson from the 1990s and 2000s, some of the companies that we thought were going to be early winners in the late 1990s turned out not to be winners. And some companies we hadn't even heard of in 1999 turned out to be huge winners a decade later. So it's important to be diversified in the space.
What sectors do you see already benefiting from AI rollout, the use cases?
Well, I think some of the sectors that can benefit very importantly in the economy are the healthcare sector, for one. Now, of course, there's a lot of practical implications of how that gets rolled out and which areas it gets rolled out. But I do think that some of the early indications for how AI can benefit the healthcare sector are quite strong. The legal sector, a lot of professional services. Certainly, we all know about call centers and coding. That was very early. But I think a lot of the professional services, which has been a tough nut to crack, getting good productivity gains in the service sector has been hard for decades. And I do think AI is going to really chip into that. But of course, here in the US, with healthcare being such a large proportion of GDP spending, that's a very important sector to try to bring costs down in.
What about now that we've started to see some partnerships between the chat models and retailers? Have they started to see a benefit yet from those partnerships?
Well, we've seen some early indications from Black Friday data. There are reports out that traffic that was sent to retailers or traffic that was sent to websites from AI got much higher conversion rates into sales than traffic that came from other sources. So I do think that is an important marker that retailers are going to latch onto, and AI companies are going to latch onto as well, to say, look, this is working. This is targeting consumers or benefiting consumers in a way, because targeting consumers is another way of saying you're bringing the products and services that they really want to them. So I do think that we're seeing some early indications of that. Meta or Facebook is seeing early indications as well, but it looks like it's becoming more widespread, and I think that's positive for consumers and companies.
Okay, let's get to the Federal Reserve. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on the rate cut that many anticipate for December and looking forward.
Yeah, we do expect there's going to be a rate cut in December. We think there's probably a decent chance of one taking place in January as well. December was very much on the fence until the New York Fed president, John Williams, came out and said that he supports a rate cut. And of course, he's very influential among the voting members on the Federal Open Market Committee. And now the question, I think, is going to be when they do cut rates, which is very likely in December, what's the messaging going to be? And how much is the market going to latch onto that messaging? Of course, the Fed's going to talk about being data dependent and the balance of risks. But I think the market might even start to look to May of next year when we do have a new chair of the Fed, and the chair is going to be appointed by President Trump and likely share some of President Trump's loose monetary policy, dovish leanings toward monetary policy. So the market might not be as sensitive to the messaging as it would otherwise be, but the messaging is still important.
Young Yu Ma, I've got to leave it there, sir. Appreciate you joining us on the program. Young Yu Ma is Chief Investment Strategist, PNC Asset Management Group.